Welcome everyone to Stopwatch 1. I'm Aisha Heikel. I am one of the Charter Conference Directors, and glad to be with you this morning. I'll be moderating human time, and then we'll be doing Q&A after everyone has the presentation. So please put questions, and we'll get to them when. Everyone will be going in order that they're represented in the program. So we will have John Shear from UNC Press, Wendy Queen from Project News, Dennis Lloyd from University of Wisconsin Press, Kate McCready from Big Ten Alliance, Anthony Kahn from Liverpool University Press, and Jay Bunker from Cornell University Press. Thank you so much for being here. It's over.
Great. Thank you, Aisha. I don't read the code of conduct eats into my time, but take this in. So I'm John Shear. I'm the director at the University of North Carolina Press. Honored to be here, honored to represent the association for this important work. So University-Based Publishing Futures is brought to you by three of your favorite partners. So the Association of Research Libraries, the Association of University Presses, and the Library Publishing Coalition. There has arguably been some friction among these groups in the past, and as I discovered recently, there's even friction within the university press world about the role that libraries and presses should be playing together. But I think a little friction is probably good for the ecosystem, and what we realize in this work is that we obviously have so much more in common than we do things that separate us. The purpose of this community of communities is to share knowledge among university-based publishers and align our outreach and advocacy efforts for maximum impact. So this is a very lengthy, but also incredibly carefully crafted definition of university-based publishing. I'm not going to read it. I did count it. That was 150 words. So then I highlighted the really important things, but that's still 63 words. So then I asked ChatGPT to reduce it to 30 words, and I got this. University-based publishers, including university presses and library publishers, play a key role in scholarly publishing. They foster bibliodiversity, supporting emerging fields, amplify regional voices, and provide accessible educational resources. Not too bad, although as usual, ChatGPT is breaking off of the human labor here, so it's good because the work that went into that statement is good. Except for the part about being on campuses, I'll bet our commercial publishing friends would say, hey, this is us too, this is part of our mission. But I would actually flip that idea on its head, which is to say, if we're basically all trying to accomplish the same thing, then why do we need commercial publishers? And unlike commercial publishers, there's not a financial imperative that transcends our values. And the values are the thing that matter with this model. Values are the business model. We want to advance scholarship, working with authors to develop and advance new scholarly conversations, emerging pedagogical approaches, and innovative publishing practices. We want to center equity and inclusion, amplifying and circulating the work of members of marginalized groups in order to advance equity in publishing, broaden the scholarly record, and support efforts to promote social justice. We want broad and equitable access to knowledge. We want to enable the widespread circulation of ideas, expanding the reach and impact of the results of research and experimentation. Open access is one important tool in achieving this goal. We want to enhance accessibility, to overcome the barriers for people with disabilities and improve the experience for all readers through the use of established and emerging accessibility standards. We want to support intellectual freedom, upholding the free and open inquiry, free expression, and the rights of authors and readers. And we want to support publishing ethics and integrity, adhering to high standards of publishing using a set of principles and approaches that may include rigorous editorial and peer review processes, among other strategies. So we've done almost no work on this except for that enormous definitional statement. And what I say by that is the work is ahead of us. And we want the work to be defined by, this work to date has been done by a confined group of people, and it is now time to open things up. And so the way this will work is by you becoming involved in this. We are encouraging members of all the communities to come together and sign up at this website that I think there will be a link to at some point. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Okay, so good afternoon, and thank you for Anthony and AUPresses for arranging this today and for the invitation. And so today I want to discuss the vital role of university press journals, specifically in the humanities. These journals are crucial for disseminating research, fostering scholarly communication, and advancing the knowledge in areas like literature, philosophy, history, etc., as well as a crucial component in interdisciplinary research and public humanities. And so for transparency, I am the director of Muse, which is a division of a university press, Johns Hopkins University Press, and we do offer multidisciplinary content on our platform in the arts and humanities and social sciences for hundreds of publishers. So humanities journals, often these humanities journals are produced by universities or academic institutions, and they focus on research and promote discourse in the humanities. They provide platforms for scholars to publish their findings, engage in critical dialogue, and continue the ongoing discussion in the field. UP humanities journals prioritize academic integrity and scholarly rigor, much of the attributes that John was saying in his presentation. And currently there are about 2,000, and this is a hard number to come to, of humanities journals published by university press publishers. So much like what John said, key characteristics of what humanities journals entail are the rigorous peer review, the diverse topics, and I think more commonly now is the movement towards open access. And many humanities journals are increasingly embracing it. It's been a little bit slower than the STEM fields, making their research more accessible to the public and promoting wider dissemination of knowledge globally, which I believe is a key component to the future of humanities journal. And for full disclosure, at Muse, we are promoting a subscribe to open model. And that model was picked so that we could provide an outlet for as many publishers that needed a program to move towards open access as possible simultaneously. I really can't say this enough. I think I'm sounding a little redundant with John's, but promoting the scholarly dialogue, supporting early career researchers and advancing knowledge. And one other area that's not on this slide that I want to pick up on from this conference today is all of the discussion around AI. And, addressing the ethical and the social implications of that technology, this is where humanities has a critical voice in that discussion. So in the open access value, I really believe in taking these scholarly humanities work and through open access that we're moving closer and closer to public humanities, right? And we don't talk enough about we're bridging that gap, and that open access is bridging that gap for us, and that accessibility, that engagement, and that community impact, it's really going to help us address contemporary social issues. And so open access really moves us from just being in the scholarly world to being a global voice. So many challenges facing humanities journals. I would say even broader, many challenges facing humanities. Every day you open up a publication and you'll hear about a humanities program that has been defunded or eliminated. You'll hear about less attention from funders. You'll hear about governments shifting monies away from the humanities. So that cascading effect comes right down to humanities journals as well. So the funding issues are top and foremost on many's mind. And I will say there is competition from commercial publishers that are much more resourced in many cases than university publishers or societies. So that's a constant sort of threat to the university publishing ecosystem. And also, while I'm a big proponent of open access, I'm living and breathing it for journals every day right now. It's not easy for a lot of journals publishers to move towards open access. So while many may know that this is what they want to accomplish as part of their mission and their passion and all of those things, it takes a lot of resources and community to sort of form that. So I hope this sort of gives a quick, good overview of it. So I just want to say that, and this is a plea, I guess, that all of us, all of our institutions, all of the researchers that we're affiliated with, We all need to be advocating for the humanities journals. It's becoming increasingly more and more important, and I think all of us together can move this scholarly research into public knowledge and into public humanities. So, thank you.
All right, hello. I'm Kate McCready. I am the Program Director for Open Publishing at the Big Ten Academic Alliance, and I'm here with Dennis Lloyd, who is the Director of the University of Wisconsin Press. We're going to talk about the collaboration between university presses and libraries to create Big Ten open books. So which is the Big Ten Academic Alliance's initiative to create open access editions of previously published scholarly monographs published by Big Ten affiliated university presses. This work is inspired by and aligned with the Big Collection Alliance's development of the Big Collection, which is the ambition of uniting all of our library collections into one unified, seamless collection. The first collection of 100 titles on Big Ten Open Books on the theme of gender and sexuality studies was published in August of 2023. And that was from the backlist of 6 of the participating university presses. And I'm going to turn it to this. Oh no, I have one more. Sorry. We're doing quite a bit of tag teaming here. So Big Ten Open Books is unique. We're using an open model. We're creating open content hosted on open infrastructure, the Fulcrum platform at the University of Michigan. And it's shared via open distribution systems. So it's hosted on tools such as OAPN, JSTOR, News, and other places, other repositories and whatnot. The project team that pulled this together is composed of librarians and university press staff. We work together to collaborate to develop the program, to clear the copyrights to allow us to republish using Creative Commons licenses. We created new EPUB files and fully accessible PDF files. We updated the metadata, and we worked with discovery systems to ensure robust adoption by parents.
So how did all this come to be? When the BTAA first announced the Big Collection, a number of Big Ten University Press directors, led primarily, as I recall, by Charles Watkinson at Michigan and the late Patrick Alexander at Penn State, began wondering about the possible effects of unintended consequences. A series of email exchanges and phone calls led to Zoom meetings and conversations with library colleagues, and then with conversations with membership in the leading the BTAA. Approximately a third of the Big Ten university presses report to their libraries, and it quickly became clear that none of the BTAA library deans or their collection specialists, or really anyone, wanted to cause harm or sow chaos on their own campuses. So we all turned to one of our shared strengths. Presses and libraries collected and analyzed data. We discovered that for the most part, many copies of Big Ten university press titles were held in multiple collections across the BTAA. None, in fact, were held in fewer than 3 libraries. We also began noticing confluences among the various presses lists and library holdings. Too often, when we talk about OA, we focus almost exclusively on the mechanics, funding, distributing, measuring impact. We acknowledge the needs of students, readers, and researchers, but not always the authors. Nearly 1/4 of the titles in the BTAA Open Books pilot program were drawn from the University of Wisconsin Press's backlist, and the vast majority of those came from our series, Living Out Gay and Lesbian Autobiographies. Founded nearly 30 years ago, it was a unique series. Many of the authors were not scholars, but ordinary people who were driven to tell the stories of their lives. Getting their buy-in for us to proceed with the project was absolutely key. While legally, we had clear right through the contracts to authorize OA publication via CC license, we had an ethical responsibility to not act unilaterally. Many of these authors had not heard of OA. Some, in fact, refused to participate. Others were happy to hear of a new means of reaching additional readers.
And we did reach a lot of readers. So the usage has been remarkable. The average initial publication year of these 100 books was 2006. And these are mostly scholarly monographs and the works that Dennis described. And from the distribution sites that we're able to track using the Books Analytics Dashboard, which is an amazing tool, that includes Fulcrum, Awaken, and JSTOR. And there's usage, quite a bit more usage. The titles in this collection have been downloaded, either a chapter or an entire book, over 125,000 times since we launched the collection. That averages over 1,250 times per book. And these are older scholarly texts. So what next? We are, these are some quotes about from the readers that Charlotte, if you were at the last session, had pointed out that we've been doing some impact, looking at what the readers are saying. So what next? The open model continues. We have 6 collections planned. We're creating a sustainable financial model for covering the costs. We're continuing to address the challenges with clearing rights and permissions and trying to find streamlined methods for that. We're striving for 100% accessibility. And we're continuing to make the works discoverable and findable. We're trying to improve our aggregated usage data, and we're starting to think about OA earlier when we're developing the contracts, for instance. Will be a conversation.
And I'll close just by saying that I'm terrifically excited by this as a participant, not just for what we created, but for what we learned about each other, about ourselves, and about how to work together to benefit us both. I'm really excited about what's going to come next. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Anthony Cond. I'm the Director of Liverpool University Press and the current President of the Association of University Presses. I'm going to talk about university presses and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You've probably seen this attractively presented colourful grid at some point. It was launched originally in 2015. It details 17 aspirations that are pretty hard to argue against. So things like ending poverty and hunger, gender equality, climate action. These are fundamentals for the United Nations. They were launched in 2015. By 2020, we had the launch of the United Nations SDG Publishers Compact. That for university presses, a mission-based community, is really preaching to the choir. So what have we been doing in that regard? Talk a little bit more about that. So this is actually University Press Week, for those of you who don't know. There's a long and noble tradition of punning on up in the theme of University Press Week. This year's theme is Step Up. How are we stepping up in regard to the SDGs? So as an organisation, AUPresses is thinking about that in its operations. A really shining example of that actually is the way in which our annual meeting now, which used to be annually in person, is now alternately in person and virtual. Of course, in the virtual year, the sailing on 600 flights is a considerable contribution to reducing our carbon footprint. What I really like, though, is in the virtual years, we have double the participation in our annual meeting. So in terms of equity, career stage, geography, it's a really important development. So AUPresses is thinking about this as an organisation, but within AUPresses, so are the individual UPs. We have presses from across 6 countries who have signed up to the Publishers Compact, from Johannesburg to Edinburgh to the West Indies. And as individuals, as part of a community, we're thinking about that. University press publishing is a kind of lifestyle choice where people who are interested in values and mission. So how have the individual presses stepped up? If you're the world's largest university press, which is, pub quiz time, Cambridge, you can afford to have lots of solar panels installed. If you're Liverpool University Press, which isn't the world's largest university press yet, you can think more locally. So we had a kind of community project where we enhanced the disused courtyard. We put in pollinating plants. We created an insect hotel. Does Cambridge have its own branded bird box? I think not. And we can think about how we produce things, and we can think about our carbon footprint and everything else. But actually, with publishers, our biggest contribution will be about what we publish and our contribution to knowledge. The first US UP to sign up to the Publishers Compact was the Marine Corps, which I think is fascinating. That's their book on strategic water. Bristol University Press took this a whole lot bigger. They launched a Global Social Challenges Journal specifically to address the UN SDGs. So they've got really big on this. How can we work together as presses and libraries? Why am I saying all this? Is it just some virtue signaling? It's not. Libraries, presses need to come together because none of the goals will be achieved without information. And that collaboration between libraries and presses is essential for that. We're part of an ecosystem, and if we extend sort of biological metaphors, there's an evolution going on. Universities, particularly in the UK and Europe, are embedding the SDGs in their strategic plans. We're seeing scholarly research increasingly framed in the context of SDGs. The Times Higher now runs a league table, international global league table of universities based on their SDG activity. The top US university, if you want to guess, Arizona State, making the biggest contribution to the SDGs according to the Times Higher. So we need to think about how we're supporting that evolution. And of course, there are 17 SDGs. No one press is going to be able to address all of these issues. It's really essential that we think about bibliodiversity and the full range of experience that university presses can try to reflect. We're at the halfway point now with the SDGs. The Publishers Compact is kind of a push to make progress by 2030. So we're seeing a kind of maturity in research and thinking around this that will be increasingly reflected. So if you're sick of hearing about it now, just imagine what the next 5 years are going to be like. The International Publishers Association is trying to compile a list of 1,000 actions to date. That's on their website. AUPresses has made some submissions on there. So if you're thinking about what ideas can I have to contribute to this organisationally, please check that out. And also a kind of final call to action as individuals as well as organisations. This is an opportunity for us all to step up. Thank you.
And finally, the words everyone loves to hear to talk. Good morning and happy University Press Week. We have heard, whoops, that's me, 4 provocative takes on where university presses and libraries may intersect now and in the future. My task is to suggest opportunities for shared advocacy around the humanities. I'm not sure if we need to say why the humanities are important, but I will. They provide us with an opportunity to reflect on the human experience. This happens in philosophy, religion, literatures, languages, law, history, fields that contextualize and examine our culture. Anthony Kahn recently wrote, "The humanities are disciplines that drive critical thinking, justice, democracy, and our understanding of what really matters. By publishing books that amplify the humanities, university presses not only help scholars, but also all general readers who want to learn more about history, culture, and the wider world." That mission has never felt more important. So, I will say something potentially controversial now. Contrary to popular belief, the humanities are not dead. During the early days of COVID, our community was gratified to see that people were reading, sales were robust, and we weathered what we had feared would be lean years. Collectively, we publish on average over 12,000 books a year and over 2,000 journals, the majority in humanities and social sciences. Since the year 2000, university presses have published 14 Nobel laureates in literature, 38 National Book Award finalists, with 5 of those winning. The vast majority of the NBA books, by the way, were poetry, then fiction, then nonfiction, and 35 Bancroft Awards for U.S. history. Given these impressive statistics, I trust you will agree that university presses could be considered a kind of humanities infrastructure, a phrase coined by Charles Watkinson and Melissa Pitts in 2021. Infrastructure, of course, is that without which things can't work. It makes things run. Yet Watkinson and Pitts also alert us to the fact that the fragility of this infrastructure is all too clear. with more than 4,000 degree granting institutions and fewer than 130 university presses in North America, this vital infrastructure of knowledge and career advancement is directly supported by less than 3% of the institutions it benefits. Broader stakeholder support is crucial. So, what can we do together? I won't exhort you to buy more books. I mean, definitely buy more books. And I urge you to check out the National Humanities Alliance, which is an alliance of colleges, universities, libraries, museums, cultural organizations, state humanities councils, and scholarly, professional, and higher education associations committed to ensuring that the humanities remain central to American life. Established in 1981, it is the only organization in the US that unites the entire humanities community. In March of this year, I had the privilege of representing the Association of University Presses at the NHA's annual conference and on Humanities Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. Remember that goofy photo at the beginning of this presentation? I won't go back to it. It was a selfie. I took it in the Library of Congress, where I went after an exhilarating day on Capitol Hill speaking directly to legislators and legislative staff about the importance of the humanities for their constituents and arguing that an ongoing commitment in the federal budget for its infrastructure was crucial. So I was geeking out in a room surrounded by Thomas Jefferson's books. It seemed only right that I use it today. This year, the NHA scheduled visits to legislative offices for 170 people from 45 states. You could be one of those people. New York had 2 delegations. I was a part of the upstate delegation, which also included librarians, directors of writing centers, and faculty. The key takeaway from that day for me is that we can do good and important things together. We can organize as a community to speak on behalf of this vital infrastructure. Because in addition to university presses, for which, to be clear, we were not directly advocating, the National Endowment for the Humanities is also infrastructure, as is the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the National Archives and Records Administration, Title VI, and Fulbright Hays, all of which need ongoing support in the federal budget, frankly, all of which are more imperiled now than they were 8 days ago. So, we are your people. We share this urgent problem of how to sustain the humanities. We can help solve this problem by coming together, continuing the dialogue, building and nurturing relationships, telling stories, devising strategy, and taking action. This is precisely what the NHA does. If your institution or organization is not already a member, please join. If you are a member, we look forward to seeing you next March and going to the Capitol together.
Thank you all for your presentations. Thank you for your presentations. Now we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. If you have that moment.